Shadowed forest, a place where the veil between worlds seemed to shimmer, lay shrouded in a perpetual twilight. The gnarled trees whispered secrets to the wind, their ancient branches laden with secrets that had long been forgotten. Under the reluctant gaze of the moon, this enigmatic forest held a sinister secret, a curse that had festered for generations. Samuel Holloway, a rugged farmer with salt and pepper hair and a perpetually furrowed brow, had always been drawn to the heart of the forest. He spent his days toiling in the fields, coaxing life from the stubborn soil, but his heart belonged to the wild woods beyond. On one fateful evening, while searching for firewood, his calloused hands brushed against a protruding root. Something caught his eye, an obsidian amulet, small and intricately carved, nestled among the gnarled roots of an ancient oak tree. The amulet, adorned with cryptic symbols, seemed to pulse with a faint, ominous energy. It was a relic of a bygone era, unlike anything Samuel had ever seen. Ignoring the warnings whispered among the townsfolk, he pocketed the amulet, drawn to its enigmatic allure. Soon after, the Holloway farm withered under an unrelenting curse. Crops that once thrived with abundance shriveled, livestock grew sickly, and the once joyful laughter of Samuel's children turned to mournful cries. Desperation gnawed at his soul, and Samuel decided to seek the counsel of the town's wise elder, Eliza Sinclair, who was known to possess knowledge of the arcane. Eliza, her eyes clouded with age and wisdom, examined the amulet with trepidation. She spoke of the curse that had plagued many families in the region, but had never been so brazen as to encroach upon the Holloways. The amulet, she revealed, was the cursed vessel a malevolent entity trapped within, feeding on the life force of its possessor. Samuel had unwittingly bound his family to the darkness that clung to the amulet's cursed history. In the dimly lit room, with candles flickering like hesitant stars, Eliza unveiled the tragic truth: the curse would persist, choosing one Holloway in each generation as its vessel, slowly sapping their vitality until they withered away. The Holloway family was forever entwined with this malevolent force, their bloodline forever tainted. As Samuel left Eliza's abode, the weight of the curse settled heavy upon his shoulders. He returned home, the obsidian amulet clutched tightly in his hand, unaware of the horrors it would unleash upon his descendants. The curse had taken root, its tendrils extending through time, ready to claim its next victim and plunge the Holloway family into an unending nightmare. Emily Holloway's descent into the clutches of the curse was a slow and agonizing process, one that filled the Holloway family home with an air of palpable dread. As the curse tightened its grip, the atmosphere around Emily grew increasingly oppressive, as if the very walls of the house conspired against her. It began with the whispers, soft, insidious voices that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, beckoning Emily to come closer. At first, she dismissed them as figments of her imagination, but as the days wore on, the voices grew more distinct, their words more sinister. They spoke of darkness, of surrender, of the sweet release that death would bring. Emily's once bright eyes became sunken and haunted, and her once lustrous hair lost its sheen. She would often wake in the dead of night, drenched in cold sweat, recounting vivid nightmares that seemed to blur the line between reality and the supernatural. David, Emily's brother, became consumed by guilt and desperation. He couldn't bear to see his sister suffer, and so he embarked on a treacherous journey into dark, shadowed forest, the place where their family's curse had its origins. With each step deeper into the woods, the atmosphere grew increasingly ominous. Strange apparitions plagued David's path. He would catch glimpses of shadowy figures darting between the trees, their eyes glowing with malevolence. Ghostly hands would reach out from the underbrush, clutching at his clothing, trying to drag him into the darkness below. The curse seemed to revel in tormenting David, sending nightmarish visions that left him questioning his sanity. He would hear his sister's voice crying out for help, only to find himself in a pitch-black void, utterly alone. As David ventured further, the forest itself seemed to conspire against him. The trees twisted and contorted, their branches forming grotesque shapes, while the ground beneath his feet felt unstable, as if it would swallow him whole. The very air grew heavy with an unnatural chill, making it difficult to breathe. Yet David pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to find the source of the curse and free his sister from its clutches. Little did he know that the true horrors of dark-shadowed forest were yet to reveal themselves, and the malevolent entity behind the curse had plans of its own for him. The ancient, gnarled trees of dark-shadowed forest seemed to close in around David as he reached the heart of the cursed woods. A thick mist hung in the air, and the oppressive silence was broken only by the rustling of leaves, as if the forest itself held its breath, awaiting the outcome of this fateful confrontation. In a small clearing surrounded by towering, twisted trees, David found the source of the curse, an ancient, moss-covered stone altar. The amulet, dark and foreboding, seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy in his trembling hand. It was time to confront the entity that had tormented his family for generations. With beads of sweat on his forehead and a pounding heart, David stepped closer to the altar. The whispers in the forest grew louder, a cacophony of voices urging him to give in, to accept the curse willingly and end the suffering. He could feel the malevolent entity's presence, a sinister force that threatened to consume him. But David had come prepared. He drew a weathered, leather-bound book from his satchel, the ancient tome of incantations passed down through generations of his family. He began to recite the incantation, words he had memorized through sleepless nights and whispered prayers. As he chanted, the very ground beneath him seemed to tremble, and the trees around him swayed as if caught in a violent storm. The malevolent entity, sensing its impending doom, unleashed its full fury. Shadows writhed and twisted, forming grotesque, shifting shapes in the air. A cold wind howled through the clearing, and the amulet in David's hand pulsed with an angry, red light. Fear surged through him, threatening to drown out his incantation, but David's determination burned brighter. He held the amulet over the ancient altar, its eerie glow now mingling with the warm golden light of the incantation. The struggle between darkness and light reached its climax. With a deafening roar, the amulet shattered into countless shards, and a blinding surge of energy burst forth. The malevolent entity let out an agonized scream that reverberated through the forest, and its shadowy form dissipated into the ether, vanquished. As the forest fell silent once more, David stumbled back, his body aching and his spirit drained. He had succeeded in breaking the curse that had haunted his family for generations, but at a great cost. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, while the ancient trees stood as silent witnesses to the final battle against the supernatural forces that had plagued dark-shadowed forest. Emily, far away from the cursed altar, felt a sudden rush of warmth and relief. The darkness that had clung to her soul for so long began to recede, and she took her first deep, unburdened breath in what felt like an eternity. Though the curse had been broken, The scars it had left on the Holloway family ran deep, and the memory of their harrowing ordeal in the heart of dark, shadowed forest would haunt their dreams for generations to come. The curse had been vanquished, but the price of victory had been steep, and the forest would forever bear witness to the horrors that had unfolded within its depths.